This is Amanda Kendall with True Resolve Tax Professionals. I want to show you how to fill out a Form 656, which is the offer and compromise application if you want to submit an offer and compromise with the Internal Revenue Service. This form is going to start off by asking you if you have used the pre-qualifier tool located on the IRS website right here. You can check yes or no depending on whether or not you did. The pre-qualifier tool is a fairly good calculator if you want to see if you qualify for an offer and compromise. However, I have seen it do some incorrect calculations, and those incorrect calculations are usually just based on a taxpayer not knowing how to properly answer the questions to get a correct answer out of the pre-qualifier tool. You will see here that the offer and compromise does require a $186 application fee and an initial payment with the 656, and that you must complete a Form 433A or a 433B OIC form. These are separate from the 433A and the 433B forms that I have done previously. They also require some supporting documentation with this form. If you have any questions on what supporting documentation, it is explained towards the end of this application and on the 433A OIC. However, you can always call my office at 720-319-8954 if you have any questions on how to fill this out or you need some help with it. Section 1 is going to be our individual information for individual taxpayers, Form 1040 filers. So we're going to put in your first name and last name here. I'm just using my information for this form. So we have Amanda Kendall, we have a social security number, and I put in my physical home address. Now if you have a different mailing address, a post office box, or anything else, you get mail somewhere else because you work out of town or something, then you'll want to put in your mailing address here as well. If you have an employer identification as a sole proprietor, then you want to go ahead and put that here as well. And then down here, we're going to mark the individual tax periods if your offer is for individual tax debt only. So I've checked the 1040 income tax years here, and we're going to say that I owe for 2010 through 2015. So you'll see here I have listed out the years. You do not want to put 2010 through 2015 or 2010-2015. You want to make sure to list each individual year that your offer is going to cover. If you have trust fund recovery penalty, you will put that here. You will need to enter the business name on this line here where I have just put the X's. 941, 940 taxes would go here, and if you have any other federal tax, you could specify the type and the period. You will see here it says if you need more space to use an attachment, entitle it Attachment to Form 656 dated, and make sure to sign and date the attachment as well. Moving on to the second page of this form, so you'll remember on the first page, one of the first things I said was that you have to have a $186 application fee and an initial payment to submit an offer and compromise. However, this could be waived if you qualify for low income certifications. So you would check this box if your household's gross monthly income is equal to or less than the monthly income shown in the table below. So you'll figure out the size of your family and come over, and if you make more than that amount in the 48 continental states in DC or Hawaii or Alaska, then you would check this box. If you check this box, you would not be required to submit the $186 application fee or any payments until the offer is accepted. Moving down to Section 2 is for business information. So if you have tax debt for Form 1120, 1065, 1120S, any type of business entity, you can put that here. Now I will tell you, if you have a business that is operational, you will not get an offer and compromise accepted. This is one of the IRS guidelines that they do not accept offers for in-business entities. So this would only be for if you have recently closed a business and are working on getting out of it, or you're in the process of shutting it down. So you'd put in your business name, business address, your employer identification number, the name and the title of the primary contact at the business, and the phone number. Same thing down here. If you have these, you would type in the tax years. You would not type them in this way, where it says 2010-2015. Again, you would type them in the same way we did before, where you're listing out each individual year by itself. Again, you have 941, 940, or any other federal tax forms that you would have there. Section 3 is going to be the reason for the offer. Most applicants are going to submit their offer based on doubt as to collectability, stating you have insufficient assets and income to pay the full amount. There are some taxpayers that will qualify for the effective tax administration offer. However, this is a completely different way of submitting an offer, and this form is not intended to guide you towards that. So doing a doubt as collectability offer, you would want to provide an explanation of circumstances. At True Resolve Tax, we usually end up attaching a 2 or 3 page explanation to fully explain the circumstances of why we're submitting an offer for a client. So we usually just have see attached explanation right here, and then we attach our explanation. However, I have put a note here that you want to explain why you are submitting the offer, why you're not able to pay the taxes you owe, and why you think the amount you're offering is in the best interest of the IRS to accept. Moving on to page 4 is going over our payment terms. There are 2 different ways that you can submit an offer. You can do a lump sum offer or you can do a periodic payment offer. I've filled out both of these to show you how this would work. So for this example, we're going to say that we're offering $10,000 to settle out a tax debt. So on the lump sum cash offer, if you're doing that, you would check this box here and you would enclose a check for 20% of the offer, which is waived if you met the requirements for the low income certification. So we're going to put in the total offer amount of $10,000. In this case, we're not going to qualify for the low income certification, so we're going to also include our 20% initial payment of $2,000, leaving a balance of $8,000. Now, with the lump sum cash offer, you can pay that balance off over 5 months after acceptance of the offer. So you don't have to pay anything while it's in review, but your payments cannot exceed 5 months to qualify for this. So here you can see that we've broken down the remaining $8,000 into monthly payments of $1,600 a month for the 5 months after acceptance. The periodic payment offer is an offer set up where you're making installment payments against the amount you're offering throughout a 2-year period while the offer is in acceptance and until that 2 years expires. So here we've put in the same $10,000, and what I've done here is I've broken out the payments. So what I did was I took 10,000, divided it by 24, and it comes up with 416.666667 endless. So what I did was I put in that we would make payments of $416.66 on the 28th day of each month for a total of 23 months. We're making an initial payment, and this should actually be 22 months. Because here we're making our initial payment of $416.82. We're making this $416.66 for 22 more months, and we have a final payment of $416.66 on the 24th month to total 24 payments, and those numbers when added together come up to the $10,000. Section 5 is going to be your designation of payment and deposit. This section is if you have a specific area where you want your payment to go to for your deposit and any further payments, and you want them to apply to a certain period first, you would put that in here. The real reason for this section is in the event an offer is denied, you can have a pre-designation of where you want these payments applied to so that they're applying towards a year that you want to try and pay off in the event that you're not confident this is going to be accepted. If you're paying more than the initial payment when you submit your offer and want any part of that payment treated as a deposit, you can check the box below here as well. Section 6 is asking where are you coming up with the money to pay this offer. So you just want to explain that here. If you're borrowing it from friends or family, you'll put that here. If you're borrowing it from a retirement account, if you're just going to adjust expenses to be able to afford it. However it is you're going to afford to pay this and where you're coming up with these funds, you want to explain that here. Explains to you here how you're going to make checks payable. You want to make sure you're following those guidelines to get them applied properly on your account. And then it's going to go over some filing requirements. On these filing requirements, you need to mark one of these boxes. You have filed all required tax returns, or you weren't required to file tax returns for the following years and indicate. So let's say that you didn't have any taxable income for 2016, so you won't be filing. So you want to make sure that you mark that box here so they don't think it's a missing return. Also, your tax payments. In order to submit an offer, you have to be compliant with your tax obligations. This includes your tax filings and your tax payments. So if you're self-employed or if you don't have enough federal tax withholding and you're required to make estimated tax payments, you're going to have to be required to pay those. So these 4 options here give you different options that you can check based on those. So you can check that you've made all required estimated tax payments, you're not required to make any estimated tax payments, you've made all required federal tax deposits for a business, or you're not required to make any federal tax deposits for the business. So you want to make sure that one of these boxes is checked so they understand. Section 7 is going through your offer terms. So you want to make sure you read these and fully understand what you're signing and agreeing to when you're submitting an offer in compromise. That continues here on page 5 of 6, going through the offer terms. And then section 8 is where you're going to sign and date the form. You are signing under penalties of perjury, so you want to make sure everything in here is correct. And then if you have paid somebody to prepare this, make sure they're filling out the paid preparer section of this for you. The rest of this form is for IRS use only. Now, I do want to explain to you that an offer in compromise does suspend the collection statute expiration dates while you're in this. not only for the time you're in it, but if an offer is rejected, it extends it for 6 months beyond that period as well. You want to make sure if you're submitting an offer in compromise that one, you're submitting it properly and including all information so it can be accepted, but two, make sure you're submitting something that does have the probability of being accepted and that you can make those payments and stay current with your tax obligations as well. If you make all those payments but you're not current with your tax obligations, the IRS could reject your offer in compromise and apply every payment you sent in towards your back tax. They will not refund any payments that you send in. So be very confident that you're submitting a proper offer in compromise. If you are curious as to whether or not you qualify for an offer in compromise, you can visit my website, www.trueresolvetax.com, and check out our offer in compromise tool. There's a few questions on there that then I can review and go over with you if you do qualify, or you can just feel free to call the office at 720-319-8954. We do offer free consultations to see if you could qualify for an offer in compromise. Thanks, and I hope you found this very helpful today.